Blood Remaster has been officially announced, will support both DirectX and Vulkan. Atari has announced that Night Dive Studios will revamp the classic Atari-owned adventure horror PC title Blood. Originally developed by Monolith Productions and released in 1997, Blood remains a fan favorite and will receive enhancements to improve the action-packed, horrifying game experience. The team working on the game at Night Dive Studios includes lead engine developer Samuel Kaiser Villarreal, whose previous work includes the original Strife, Drok 2, Seeds of Evil and, most recently, Forsaken Remastered. Additionally, developers Edward Richardson, James Haley, and producer Daniel Gratian will be working on the project. Regarding the upgrading effort, Daniel said, "Blood stood up extremely well over time and we are taking care to preserve all the qualities that made the game so special. It really only needs minor updates to provide a better user experience for contemporary audiences. By using some of the functions of Night Dive's KEX engine, we'll be able to provide compatibility with today's video standards, with DirectX and Vulkan support. Similarly, we'll provide compatibility with the current audio standards. We'll add support for modern networks, Steamworks, and GOG Galaxy to bring this original game to more players. As part of this, we will preserve the accuracy of the game behavior. While these upgrades are relatively minor, we are confident that they will provide fans with a better, current generation gameplay experience." Todd Shalbetter, COO of Atari, added, "We are thrilled to work with the fine team at Night Dive Studios to bring the cult classic Blood back to gamers. Blood is a grisly good time, and there's no better team out there than Night Dive to ensure that the game will find new fans." Originally released in 1997, Blood is a first-person shooter that helped redefine the genre and first introduced many elements now accepted as commonplace. In Blood, players jump into the boots of undead gunslinger Caleb as he seeks revenge against the dark god Shunabog. Caleb's arsenal features a mix of standard and occult weaponry, which he uses to devastating and gore-filled effect. In the game, players visit a terrifying world populated by hordes of bloodthirsty fiends including cultists, gargoyles, zombies, hellhounds, and an unholy host of other terrors. Mortal Kombat 11 has been officially announced. Releases on April 23. Ed Boon has just announced Mortal Kombat 11. The game will feature an all-new custom character variations that will give you unprecedented control to customize the fighters and make them your own. According to its description, Mortal Kombat 11 will be powered by a new graphics engine showcasing every skull-shattering, eye-popping moment, aiming to bring you so close to the fight you can feel it. Last but not least, the game will feature a roster of new and returning classic fighters, and Mortal Kombat's cinematic story mode will continue the epic saga. What's really cool here is that Warner Bros. Appears to be releasing this latest MK game simultaneously on the PC and consoles, so that's a first. Mortal Kombat 11 will be released on April 23 and its community reveal event is planned for January 17. A few more details about Microsoft's Xbox Scarlet game streaming service. Back at E3, Microsoft mentioned that they were working on a next-generation console. At that time, I noted that this new console is a family of devices and was going by the name of Scarlet. Since uncovering that little bit of info, I was able to dig up a few tiny bits of content about how Microsoft is developing its next-generation consoles. And yes, consoles, because right now, they are planning two different pieces of hardware. First, Microsoft is building a traditional console that you would expect from the Xbox brand. I think it's important to point this out so that those who prefer to have all their hardware locally, will have an option with the next generation Xbox. As for specs for this device, that's still not known at this time as it's the early days of development for that piece of hardware. But what I am starting to hear more about is the second device, a streaming box that is designed to work with the company's upcoming game streaming platform. Scarlet Cloud, as one person called it, is the game streaming service that we have all been envisioning ever since Microsoft showed off a demo game streaming at its all-employee meeting back in 2013. But this time, Microsoft has a path to bring it to market. The second console that the company is working on is a lower power device that is currently planned to ship with the next generation device that is designed for game streaming. But the catch here is that Microsoft thinks it has figured out how to handle the latency-sensitive aspects of gaming. The cloud console will have a limited amount of compute locally for specific tasks like controller input, image processing, and importantly, collision detection. The downside of this is that since more hardware is needed locally, it will raise the price of the streaming box, but it will still cost significantly less than what we are accustomed to paying for a new generation console, which should help expand the platform's reach. And that is very important, as Microsoft doesn't typically make much money on the hardware sales, but they do on things like Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass, and game sales. If Microsoft can create a next-gen console that requires lower upfront payment and longer subscription payments, remember, all games will run in the cloud, so you will need to pay something to access them. This is a huge win for Xbox and Microsoft. The portion of the game that runs locally, some have referred to it as a slice or splice, means that the game is running in two locations at the same time and utilizes Microsoft's cloud to stitch it all together. The benefit here is that Microsoft's cloud platform reaches around the globe with data centers in every major market. This makes streaming the game's platform available globally, but this also likely means that it can run on any type of device. Of course, Microsoft would love you to buy their hardware, but the company's end goal is that you can access Xbox from any device, anywhere, and Scarlet Cloud is looking to deliver on this idea. One person familiar with Microsoft's plans said that this may reduce latency in all aspects of the game as well. If a multiplayer game is using Azure as its central server, Scarlet Cloud Console will be closer physically to the multiplayer server, resulting in less latency. When it comes to games, all Scarlet games will run on all Scarlet devices. Meaning, both consoles will be first-class citizens, and there is not expected to be an awkward "this game only runs on the non-cloud Scarlet." The cloud version of Scarlet is further along in the development cycle than the traditional console that will also be released in 2020. This device does make me wonder if it has any relationship to the Xbox Hobart streaming device that was nearly released 2 years ago but was cancelled late in the development cycle. Microsoft has become quite confident in their streaming solution, and now that they figured out how to bring it to market after many years of development, they are pushing forward with those plans. Leak says that AMD Navi 10 can compete with NVIDIA RTX 2080. The leaked AMD Navi graphics card served the mid-range sector up to the RTX 2070. However, there might also be a Navi 10 variant as RTX 2080 opponent. After the disaster with RX Vega, AMD has the chance again with the new Navi generation to steal NVIDIA larger market share in the graphics card sector. The new Turing generation currently offers few incentives, especially for the mainstream market. The increase in performance beyond ray tracing and DLSS is also rather moderate. An inexpensive offer with good performance could therefore be the key to a new boom for AMD. The last leak already mentions 3 graphics cards with the names RX 3060, RX 3070 and RX 3080. The RX 3080 is supposed to achieve approximately the performance of the RTX 2070, but costs only $250. Navi could be so revolutionary because the manufacturing process becomes much smaller. As with Ryzen 3000, AMD relies on TSMC's 7nm process for the new graphics card generation. Due to the small structure width, there are several possibilities that Navi could push forward. On the one hand, the die size shrinks very much. On the other hand, the transistor density also increases. A 215 chip could thus have more transistors than an RTX 2080 Ti. Even if the chip is smaller, a Navi chip could achieve the performance of the RTX 2080 or even higher. This theory is now confirmed by another leak. The information comes from the Chinese Chifel forum. According to the post of a user, the chip with the name Navi 10 is also supposed to be targeting the RTX 2080. The last leak from Adore TV showed that the first versions are probably intended for the mainstream market. The RX 3060 and RX 3070 are supposedly based on Navi 12, a smaller chip. This information also coincides with a leak that confirms that AMD could launch a 40Cu Navi version in the first half of the year. The larger version of Navi bears the name Navi 10 and will be used in the RX 3080. However, the RX 3080 might not be the fastest version of Navi 10. According to Chifel, the launch will take place in the second or third quarter, which is in line with AMD's own statements. It might therefore be possible that the company will initially present only the already leaked Navi derivatives or even only the RX 3060 and RX 3070 with Navi 12 chip at CES 2019 and launch Navi 10 later as RX 3080 and RX 3090. The leak on Chifel contains more information. Navi is supposed to be especially efficient. It literally means that Navi 10 should offer high-end performance with a surprising energy efficiency. We assume that the surprise will go in the direction of high efficiency and therefore low consumption and not vice versa. The second detail relates to NVIDIA's real-time ray tracing. The Navi generation should therefore have no ray tracing hardware at all, which is actually just logical. AMD itself has said about ray tracing that it only supports the technology if the mainstream user would also benefit from it. How realistic the information is will probably only become apparent at CES 2019. But our comparison of TSMC's manufacturing techniques shows that Navi could very easily play a role in the high-end market. The transistor density of the 7nm process is so high that even with a small chip the performance of a RTX 2080 would easily be achieved. InWin 307 comes with numerous RGB LEDs in the front. With the 307, InWin unveils what's essentially an updated version of the current 303 case. The front panel features numerous RGB LEDs which can be used to create animated images. The case is already available in Asia and should hit the EU zone this month. The InWin 307 comes with a simple and sleek design and there are no special air vents present that could have an impact on the looks. Everything has been kept as clean as possible, which was also the case with the previous model. One of the two panels of the InWin 307 is made entirely from solid tempered glass. Apart from that, the front panel features numerous RGB LEDs, which basically form a programmable LED wall. InWin supplies its Glow software featuring 12 pre-programmed settings that will let you display the time, animated clouds, candlelight, and more. This case is compatible with ATX, MATX and Mini ITX form factor motherboards. The HDDs as well as the power supply have been hidden away behind the motherboard tray. Additionally, there is space for two more 2.5-inch devices on the back of the motherboard tray. Cooling-wise, you can install a 360mm radiator in the top and another 120mm at the rear. It's not the first time that InWin comes up with such a great idea, as its Infinity LED feature was great looking as well. Checking the price, the InWin 307 seems to cost approximately €280 to €300. Conan Unconquered is a new strategy game, coming to the PC in Q2 2019. Betterglyph, the team behind Star Wars, Empire at War, has announced a new Conan strategy game, Conan Unconquered. Conan Unconquered is set in the barbaric world of Conan the Barbarian, where you must build your stronghold and assemble an unconquerable army to survive the savage hordes of Hyboria. In this strategy game, wave after wave of increasingly more difficult enemies will rush at your gates and you will need to manage resources, research new technologies to advance your defenses, and recruit an ever-growing army if you are to survive utter destruction. Players can choose to play the game entirely alone in single player, but Conan Unconquered can also be enjoyed in full two-player co-op, allowing for a truly unique, shared multiplayer experience. Players will share a base, but both can freely construct new buildings and amass an army to reach their common goal. The game is currently planned for a Q2 2019 release on the PC.